Welcome to another It Is Possible Tuesdays with Sanjo. For I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans for prosperity and not for disaster, to give you a future and a hope. But Jesus beheld them and said unto them, with men this is impossible, but with God all things are possible. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today, my guest is someone whose story is inspirational, and you will want to sit and listen. This is someone who has a Bible name. This is someone whose name means carried by God. And you will recognize that indeed he has been carried by God. My guest today has been an alumni of the University of West London, Bracknell and Wokingham College, Andrews University, University of Wales, Trinity St. David. I am happy to have in my podcast today Pastor Amos Mitchel. Welcome. How are you today?
Yes, I'm doing well, Aunt Sark, and yourself?
I am excited. I'm pleased that you're finally here with me, and we are going to have a wonderful conversation. Now, I've just thank you. I've just told my listeners that your name means carried by God. Who named you? And do you know why they gave you a Bible name?
Yes, please. So it was my father who gave me that name. He gave me that name because the fact that his father is also called the same name. So that's why he also chose to call me Amos. Hence why I'm called Amos Mitchell.
Beautiful. So it's a matter of handing down a tradition.
Yes, yeah. It was my father who named me after his dad. So and it's quite interesting because the fact that I also have a son that I also like gave the same name as my dad. So my
Yes.
son is called Eugene because the fact that my dad is also called Eugene. So kind of
Yes.
like trying to keep that going.
Lovely. So you're
Yeah.
maintaining the tradition. Now, Pastor, where were you born and what was your upbringing like?
Yes, so I was born in a country in West Africa called um, 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 Liberia. And my upbringing was interesting because the fact that I was born before the time of my actual birthday. So in other words, I was born prematurely. So when I was born, the doctors basically said to my parents that I would not survive um, because of how my birth was. And I think that according to my parents, I was put in what's it called incubator in an
Yeah.
incubator for quite a while, just so that the incubator could somehow sustain my life for a bit. But irrespective of what the doctor said, my parents just ignored what they said, and by the grace and mercy of God, I am still alive today by His grace and
Beautiful.
mercy. Yeah.
Indeed, you are carried by God from a premature birth to being here 2025.
Yeah.
You are from Liberia. I think I know another pastor who was born in Liberia. I think Pastor Lawrence is also from Liberia. But
Yeah.
yes. Now, tell me, growing up in Liberia, what was that like?
So, you know, in Liberia there was a civil war, and because of the civil war, um, we actually went to Ghana. That was actually where I am. I kind of like grew up. So I grew up in Ghana a bit before I eventually came to the UK in about 2003. But yeah, when I came to the UK, however, it was a bit of a different experience for me. In that, I had to like adapt to how the people spoke English, and also, uh, I was bullied when I was younger, picked on when I was younger, and I think that perhaps the reason why I was bullied was because the fact that I was black, and also not only was I black, but I also had a, like um, a physical impediment, like a disability, and because of these two reasons, I feel like I was bullied as a result of being different. Um, because the school that I went, a lot of them were white. There were only like a few black people and people of other ethnicities there, and so yeah. But having said that, I believe that God is faithful, and we are still here today.
Um, to be somebody who has been bullied because of who they are intrinsically, it's nothing you can do about who you are. And sometimes childhood can be very unkind and difficult. But I go back to your name. You have been carried by God, and you have
Amen.
been able to withstand the bullying and withstand the fact that you had to learn how to navigate a new culture, a new space. And you not only navigated it, but you did so successfully. So you
Amen.
came to the UK 22 years ago. And where in the UK did you live?
I actually still live there right now. I live in Bracknell in Berkshire, south of England. So that's where I live right now. Obviously, before I was living with my parents, but now I am with my own family, my wife and my two children.
Beautiful. So you left. You were born in Liberia, but because of the civil war in Liberia, you and your parents and family went to Ghana, and Ghana is basically your foundation then. And then you came to the UK 22 years ago.
Yeah.
Quite a journey. Um, when you came to the UK 22
Mhm.
years ago, you are now your own adult with your own family, a wife and two children. Did you envision as a child in Ghana that you would be where you are now today?
Um, there is a passage in scripture that says that it is not by might, it is not by power, but by my spirit, says the Lord God of hosts. And to be honest, I don't think that I would be where I am today without the power of God and the Spirit of God, because the fact that um, I've always been like the odd one out, so to speak. Um, Now, obviously, let me just give you an example of why I'm saying that. For example, when we were playing football or something like that, I will be like the one that will be chosen last. Um, in the teams, because what happened was that we will say that we're gonna play, I don't know, like for example 5-a-side game, and so people will pick like their 5-a-side, but then uh, it was almost like a pattern whereby I was picked the last over and over again, and even like things like yeah, so yeah, I was always kind of the odd one out. And so, and even like now, I thank God, because the fact that um, I do have a speech impediment, uh, but I mean, it's quite uh, funny, because the fact that when we think of pastors, or when we think of people who preach, we will not think of them as having speech impediment. You get what I mean? We will think of them being like people who are able to speak well and able to say the right things. But then, with me, sometimes, it's a struggle whereby I am trying to speak or preach. Uh, but you know what? The interesting thing is that uh, when I'm preaching, or when I'm preaching, usually, I think that God is the one that is the one that's speaking. So obviously, sometimes it does come, but it's not as often as when I'm speaking to a person, like one on one, in a way that is normal. Um, but yeah, I thank God that so far, all of the churches that I've served, including the ones that I have now, Slough Central, Frimley, and I've got another church plant in Slough as well. They have all been open, and that, irrespective of my supposed weaknesses, um, they still respect me, uh, as their pastor serving them.
Beautiful. That's such a phoenix moment, having been transplanted, having navigated, having been bullied. You are now in a position of authority, a position where you're serving others as a pastor. And you've mentioned your disability, but you have not been limited by what is man will look on as a limitation.
Mm.
That has placed you in a very powerful position. You're leading a church, a couple churches as a pastor. You mentioned your speech impediment and being chosen last, but the Bible says the last shall be the first. And you have
Mm.
mentioned that it is not by might, but it's indeed by God's holy um, designation for you. Have you always wanted to be a pastor?
Um, yes, I actually wanted to be a pastor when I was younger. Um, but then I thought to myself that, why would you want to become a pastor if you have a speech impediment, right? Because, as I said earlier on, people do not often think of a pastor as someone who has a speech impediment. They expect you to know how to speak well, because the fact that you're meant to be a church leader, so to speak. Um, but then, I think I was once given like a chance to speak in front of the church. I think it was tithe and offering, and then that went well. And I think that after some people said to me, "Oh, we think he might be, a good shot for a pastor," And then I thought, "What are you talking about?" Uh, you know, uh, yeah, because it's almost like what's it called, a paradox. It's a paradox whereby that a pastor is supposed to be a good speaker, but then you have someone who had a speech impediment. So it's a paradox whereby you're thinking that, okay, that's a bit odd, right? And so that kind of like was my thinking then. But then I was given another opportunity to do, I believe, a service during Vesper, and the elder that did my what's it called, my uh, 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 um, interpretation. He actually spoke to me after I'd spoken, and then he said to me, Amos, you may want to think about studying theology at a seminary. Um, and then that's where I started to think about it. Uh, but then, obviously going to the seminary, it was not cheap. It was going to be expensive. And I thank God that my parents and my two sisters were able to support me to uh, study at the seminary. And that's how I basically became a pastor in the aftermath. Uh,
Okay.
yes, and some people even doubted, whether I would be employed. Uh, but God is not man, and man is not God. So,
Indeed, because you started your journey, your pastorate in 2016, didn't you?
yes, yes, I did.
Exactly. And it's now 2025 and you're still going strong.
Yeah.
You've spoken about the fact that people tend to think of pastors as being excellent communicators and being fluent and not having any form of speech impairment. I notice, however, that your first foray into higher education was in communication and media studies. Now, why did you focus on communication and media studies as a start into this journey of being a pastor?
Uh, I, I think it's all part of the journey, because the fact that back then I was young, uh, and I did study that course, uh, because the fact that I wanted to become what's it called, a journalist, but not a journalist that like on TV speaking, and I wanted to be like, for example, people who write articles in the newspapers, because you don't have to speak in front of the TV and everything. So I wanted to be that type of journalist, so to speak. Uh, but then you know obviously in our classes back then, you had to like do some what's it called? You had to like speak in front of your class sometime. Thank God that went well, irrespective of the speech impediment. Um, but yeah, at that time, my focus was not on becoming like a journalist that speak in front of TV, but rather like because I do like writing. I do like writing, and I also like reading the news as well. So that was my thinking back then. But obviously, it's a bit like Jonah. When you run and run and run, eventually you come to the point where God wants you to be. So, yeah.
You're, and I'm sure that the skills and the knowledge that you gained through doing your communication and media studies course have helped you as
Hmm.
you pastor, as you communicate on various levels. Um, I like the analogy of being a Jonah, running and running, but eventually you end up doing what you were called to do, to pastor
Yeah.
and to spread the gospel. You mentioned a word, and I want to say something about it. You spoke about being the odd one out. And, recently somebody used a word to describe me. They said, I'm peculiar. And I want to use that word with you because the Bible says you are peculiar people. And so
Amen.
you might think you're the odd one out, but you're the odd one in because you're standing out for Christ and
Mm.
you are making an impact. Now, you started your pastoral journey in 2016
Mhm.
at Reading, Ghana
Yeah.
church.
Yeah.
Tell
Wedding
me a little
Ghana.
bit about that experience because it seems like you actually went home.
Yeah. Well. It's quite interesting because the fact that that's actually my actual church.
Ah, wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would say that it was through the grace and mercy of God that I was actually able to start where people actually knew me and knew my strengths and my weaknesses, and perhaps people could understand me better, as opposed to perhaps went if I had started somewhere else, people would not have had an idea of who I am, and would have probably judge me before actually giving me the opportunity. So I thank God that I was able to serve uh, under a pastor by the name of Pastor George Stubby. I was an intern. I think it was for about 2.5 years or something like that. And then so I served at that church, and then I also served at Family, which is now, funny enough, um, the church where I'm now like the church pastor now. And also I'm working with another pastor as well, who is my associate. Yeah, so and I thank God for that because, as I said, it was easier for me to be able to grow and learn, as opposed to if perhaps I had been asked to serve somewhere whereby people did not really know me. So yeah.
It makes sense that our training ground is a place that knows us and nurtures us. And you have spoken about the opportunities that your home church gave you in doing the
Yeah.
offertory, in doing the Vespers. And I believe that the Adventist church is an awesome place for young people to develop their skills. They're always
Mm.
given the opportunity speak from the desk. We have 13 Sabbath, we have Youth's Day, we have Children's
Mhm.
Day, and the children are always given the opportunity to develop their God given skills. And you were given that opportunity, and then you were given the opportunity to intern at the same place that had poured into you.
Yeah,
And
yeah, and sorry to cut you up there,
that's
but
fine.
like even before I became an intern there, right? I served at the Sabbath school secretary. I served as a deacon. I served as being a part of the youth team. I served. even like being a part of the church choir and the youth choir. All of these were different ways whereby I believe that God was I'm trying to prepare me for what's to come. It's a bit like the story of Moses, whereby God prepared him by letting him become a shepherd before he eventually started at the age of 80. Um, yeah, so I do agree with you when you say that like our church, the Adventist church, they always are able to give you opportunities, uh, and I thank God for our church. I really do. Yeah.
Yeah. Pastor, how many languages do you speak?
Oh, um, I can speak two languages. I can speak English, and then I can also speak Chi, which is like the language that's spoken in Ghana. Yeah, so I can speak both very easily. Yeah.
Beautiful. And when you were preaching in Reading, Ghana and Bracknell,
Mhm.
Ghana, did you speak in English or in Twi or both?
Well, a lot of the times, I spoke in English
Yes.
because that's when I'm preaching. I like to use English. Um, but then sometimes I would also use Chi as well because obviously I was among a people group that I am a part of. Being someone who lived in Ghana myself. Uh, I also felt at home as well when I spoke to sometimes, but I prefer to use English, and I think that the people there they actually understand that because when I came here I was younger, really young, so obviously I'm not gonna be I mean even though I can speak um Chi, it is not really like a language that I preach in well, but I'll just throw in a few Chi words here and there just to make them laugh or just to make them feel as though I'm one of them.
Yes. And do you speak Twi with your family, your children, or do you only speak English?
Yeah, so I speak Chi because of the fact that my wife is Ghanaian. She's from Ghana. So I speak Chi, and I speak Chi of it also to my children as well. Um, but then, sometimes when you're speaking Chi to them, they're speaking English back to you. Probably because of the fact that my children were born here. So we would like them to know both the English language because it's really important, and then equally we would also like them to know the Chi as well. I think that they can understand it. It's a bit like my little brother because my little brother was born here. Uh, so my little brother he can actually speak Chi as well. But he prefers to speak English because the father he was born and raised here. So yeah, yeah.
But it's always good to have that cultural link, that cultural identity, because it really bolsters who you are, where you're coming
Yeah,
from, and your full sense of self.
yeah.
Pastor, in your sojourn on planet Earth to date, what
Mm-hmm.
would you say is the thing that you're most proud of, and why?
Oh, I got a lot. uh, Um, so I felt really proud when I gave birth to my children. I mean, obviously, it was not me that gave birth, but it was my
Yes,
wife. But
yes.
yeah, it felt so good, you know. Especially because the fact that when I was younger, when I was attending school, uh, there was this person who sometimes pick on me, and he made a statement whereby he was just saying that you're not gonna get married until you're 40, but God had other ideas, so and I think that another proud moment was when I finished the seminary. And obviously, another proud moment was when I was able to become employed by the South England Conference. So yeah, I mean, I got a lot of things that I'm thankful to God for. So yeah.
Wonderful. But I like the fact that one of the things that you're most proud of is the fact that you becoming a parent. People will say words and those words can limit us, but you have been able to defy the odds and you
Mm,
parent, you are a pastor, you are spreading the gospel, which is what you wanted
mm,
to do. Now, you've achieved quite a lot. I mean, you have a Master of Arts in theology, um, and you're a pastor. Is there anything that you regret, and why would that be a thing of regret?
um, the thing that I most regret was trying to be accepted by people who did not want to accept me. Uh, I tried to fit into a crowd that did not really accept me when I was younger. Um, so I wanted to be like a cool guy, so to speak, going to school and everything. And I think he even got to a point whereby I wanted to like get what's it called? The hairstyle what's the hairstyle called? Yeah. Whereby I want to get some weights. Weight. I wanted to like get
Yeah, braids. Yes.
and get some jewelry like just to feel cool and yeah and then um but then I would also like but obviously even though I never got to the stage whereby I actually wore jewelry and whereby I actually like got braids. I regret the fact that I would actually like wear my trousers with my what's it called? Of course it's called like my my boxers will be hanging out, and then this was kind of like the fashion, right? Um, but then when you grow up, you're thinking, okay, why did I do that? What was the point in that? Why was I trying to fit into a crowd that did not accept me? Um, so if I could go back and change that, I would, and I would actually work with people who actually accept me for who I am and not who they think I ought to be.
Yes.
So
And
that's my biggest regret.
yeah, I think it's a very, I think for young people, it's a very difficult road to navigate when they're teenagers and there's peer pressure to fit in. You do want to be with the cool guys, you do want to be with the cool people, you don't want to stand out. But
Mm,
as you've made the point, that when we grow up, when we mature and there's this level of emotional literacy, emotional intelligence, we recognize, no, it's good to be me. Let me accept all of me and let me embrace the uniqueness of who I am. And I'm so happy that you're able to reach that point in your life, and you now see the beauty in who you are, all of you. Now, Pastor, you've mentioned that you were born premature. You've mentioned that you have a speech impediment, and that there is some amount of physical impairment that you have. How did your parents and your family handle that situation?
I think my parents did a, a very excellent job, and in my family, because the fact that they did not try to treat me special. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you know, they yeah, yeah, they just saw me as Amos. You know, they did not want to like they did not want you to like give to that have this impression that, oh, you're only being treated in a certain way because the fact that uh you have a disability or something like that. For example, if I messed up, my dad, my mom, they will let me know you messed up. And still now, even though I'm still pastor, so to speak, I'm still just Amos to them.
Yes.
Ironically. So my dad and my mom, they can actually tell me off still. Yeah, and so I think that the key was the fact that because you know how sometimes people want to like treat you differently because of the fact that it's almost like it comes from a place of um 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 feeling like pity for you, pity, and I don't like that. That self pity. You're feeling sorry for yourself, right? Um, and I thank God that my parents did not treat me, like, oh, you're a special kid or something like that. They just treat, they just, they just treated me like a normal human being.
Yeah,
And
and
then so,
indeed,
yeah, carry on.
sorry, indeed, you are a normal human being. It's just people's perception of you because you look different, and you did mention that before.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
I
Yeah. Um. So. For example, there was a time. There was a time whereby I was failing miserably, and when I say I was failing, no, I was failing, right? And my dad, cause so yeah, yeah, it was actually the time when I was studying um, 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 at a seminary, and there was a time period whereby I was failing both Greek and Hebrew, and my dad kind of noticed that I was not serious, and so he gave it to me. And when I say he gave it to me, I mean he gave it to me like a proper African man would. And then he just turned me off, and then he said to me, "No, okay, let me just put it in a way that's more." He said to me that if you don't pass this, right, I swear what I will do to you. And then by God's grace and with those words, I was able to pass as well. So and I think I like that as opposed to him just patting me on the back and saying that, oh, don't worry, and yeah, that comes from a place of pity as opposed to a place of empowerment.
Yes, yes. It's interesting because um, we're living in a world where there's an explosion of information. You can find anything on the internet, but quite a number of people are still not aware of how they need to interact with people who have disabilities. They're not quite sure how they need to speak to them. They may want to speak loudly and slowly. They may want to speak in baby language. They may always want to do things for them rather than inquire of them, how can I assist you? Would you like me to do this, as they would with anybody else?
Yeah.
And it's I like the fact that your dad treated you the way he would have treated anybody else who was not doing what they should have been doing.
Yeah.
You know, tough love, and it got you to shape up and do what you needed
Yeah.
to do.
And I
Uh,
thank you for that. Yeah. I just say, I thank him for that as well. Yeah.
is that a picture of your dad behind you?
No, that's my father-in-law.
Ah, interesting,
Yeah, my
lovely.
wife's father.
Yes. Um, I want to find a pastor. You know, we all have things that we set out to do in our lives.
Mhm.
What's on your bucket list? What's on your bucket list?
I want to be a part of the faithful when Jesus Christ comes again. Uh,
Definitely.
yeah, so I hope that by His grace and by His mercy that I'll be counted amongst the faithful when Jesus Christ return again. Um, there is this program in Oakwood University. I think it's called PELP,
Ah,
whereby
yes,
like the
PLC.
pastors and non-church leaders they meet every year, and then they give them like training and like they got like some powerful preachers there as well. And yeah, that would be one of my things to do on my bucket list. Um, Also, uh, I'll probably say, yeah, just to be able to travel sometimes, just to visit other places outside of UK as well. Yeah, I mean I've been to quite a few places outside of the UK since I came to the UK. Uh, I've been to Italy, France, Germany, but then I would also like to perhaps go visit countries such as uh, 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 um, the USA, Canada, or Japan and Australia and all of these other countries, South Korea perhaps in the future. Yeah, so these are yeah, but then you obviously need money for that. So pray for me that I'm able to get that. But my biggest one is to be a part of the faithful when God comes again.
Beautiful. It's always wonderful to dream because dreams cause us to put things into place and we start working towards them,
Mm.
you know, we have expectations and we set goals to achieve them. Pastor, you know, as we're talking, the name of my program is It Is Possible Tuesdays with Sanya, and I want to find
Mhm.
out what aspect of your life would you say has allowed you to say it is possible.
That irrespective of my supposed weaknesses, that God can use me just like anyone else. Uh, and I think that it it's all God, baby, because the fact that it's God that's made this possible. Uh, I believe that there's a passage in scripture that says that um, uh, um, uh, it talks about Paul having a thorn in his flesh, and then he asked God 3 times that God should take the thorn away from him, but then God said to him that no, I can I don't want to do that because at the end of the day, like my power is made perfect in weakness, and that my what did he say? My grace is sufficient for you. And I think that before, I would wrestle with the fact that um, I had, supposed weaknesses, and and I think that I was so fixated on other people's opinion of me. So I think that kind of like caused me to think differently of myself. But now I believe that God can use anyone. Um, and so yeah, I would say that that is kind of what has kept me going. The power of God working in us, irrespective of any weaknesses that we might have, and also I think that often people may see people who may have a form of uh, of a weakness that's very obvious. But then I think that irrespective of whoever we are, if we are not God, if we are not perfect, we all have our weaknesses and our strengths. So yeah, but obviously I have to like grow in order to understand that.
Yes, yes, yes. It's a pivotal moment in one's life when you can recognize I am enough.
Yeah.
And God can use me as I am to do what He wants. And your being able to accept that does show a great level of maturity, and it goes back to the fact, Pastor, you came before your time. You came
Mm,
as a premature baby, but now you have grown into fullness of what God
mm,
has called you to be. Pastor, it has been wonderful having this conversation with you. A premature baby from Liberia moving to Ghana and then being moving to the UK, a child who was bullied, a child who was the odd one out, the person who wasn't chosen first, but the last person, the person who wanted to be cool and to get in with the in crowd, and
mm,
coming to an understanding and an appreciation of the fact that, in spite of what your visible and invisible impairments or limitations may be, you are a child of God and you have allowed God to be manifested in your life. You have become strong and empowered through him. You have your qualifications. You are now pastoring a number of churches. You are doing what God has called you to do, and you have no regrets. You have a number of accomplishments. You are living up to your name of Amos, being carried or born by God. You have recognized that being a parent is one of the wonderful things that has happened to you in your life, and you have been able to finish seminary. You are now employed by SEC, and you have dreams of traveling the world, of continuing to be remaining faithful as a child of God. And we're so great. We're so grateful that you are holding on to the Master's hand. We are happy that you found the time to speak with us today. And I hope that someone listening will be inspired by your story, will be inspired by the fact that you have recognized that it is possible when you just rest in who God has called you to be. Pastor,
mm,
you, husband, father, church leader, a brilliant representation of the continent of Africa, of the Europe, of the world. We are so
Mm.
happy that you took the time to be with us today, and we want to say thank you very much. Ladies and
Mhm.
gentlemen, my guest today, Pastor Amos Mitchell. Thank you for coming. Those of you who are online listening, remember, be a dreamer, a doer, a thinker. See possibility everywhere. Because you are alive, everything is possible. But Jesus beheld them and said unto them, with men, this is impossible, but with God, all things are possible. Thank you and see you soon on It Is Possible Tuesdays with Sadia. Take care.
When I call on Jesus, all things are possible. I can mount on wings like eagles and soar. When I call on Jesus, mountains are gonna fall. 'Cause he'll move heaven and earth to come rescue me when I call. When I call on Jesus, all things are possible. I can mount on wings like eagles and soar. When I call on Jesus, mountains are gonna fall. 'Cause he'll move heaven and earth to come rescue me when I call.